I asked my researchers to simulate, using the methodology of game theory, the probable outcome of the Trump administration's attempts to pacify the Russia-Ukraine conflict, as well as those involving China and Iran. The outcome indicated a common interest in truces but not in lasting peace agreements, as authoritarian regimes in the simulation deemed such agreements an excessive limitation on their interests, given that Trump's America was perceived as having insufficient deterrence potential. Therefore, translating this assessment, incorporating stability requirements of the regimes, into global market dynamics over the next 3 years suggests the following probabilities: A bipolar configuration, B. Gaps in trade flows, C. A low likelihood of open warfare, but a high probability of reciprocal deterrent construction, endo- and sub-robotics, to prepare for a potential future conflict. A G2 scenario was also simulated, dividing spheres of influence between America and China, where China would take control of Russia and the US would focus on Europe. Although this scenario is not impossible, given that it aligns with Beijing's ambition to become the world's leading power, it has a low probability due to US reluctance. In summary, the pursuit of peace in this historical moment is unrealistic, whereas maintaining conflicts below threshold is a more viable strategy. Technically, this is called interwar cooperation. For the West, it entails strengthening its deterrence capability and expanding it. Although this scenario analysis serves as training for doctoral students in economic and financial geopolitics, I believe G7 think tanks are reaching similar conclusions from their own assessments. If so, the most logical consequence in terms of realism is that the world of democracies and compatible allied nations must consolidate, and the US should accept a Nova Pax to replace the Pax Americana, while still maintaining its central role as the leading global power. I had already written about this in the Grand Alliance, 2007, where I suggested a G7+ strategy. However, I made the mistake of considering Russia's possible inclusion, albeit as an external partner. Nonetheless, I insist on this mistake because it remains a key factor in a non-military solution to the bipolar configuration with latent conflict. Without Russia, China would become a regional rather than a global power. In this sense, it is rational for Trump to continue seeking at least a truce with Russia and to keep many commercial pathways open with China. The reason is that within a 10 to 15-year scenario, leadership transitions in Russia and China could become conflictual in a negative economic context. I consider a severe internal crisis in Russia and China more dangerous than their aggression, as the world will lack the financial resources to prevent major disruptions. With this in mind, I believe the Nova Pax long-term project should also include a G7 plus metacurrency, a credit based on the convergence of the dollar, euro, yen, pound, etc. to provide additional financial capacity that strengthens the dollar, promotes democratic development, and enhances crisis recovery capabilities, key factors in maintaining global financial trust.